Hey all, in the theory staff, I just wanted to tell you about what I discovered for Canvas in automatic quizzing. So I did a lot of searching on the net and was able to find that someone else had produced, this guy, Mark Fiesel, had produced a bunch of stuff, basically derivative of the musictheory.net and this type of thing. But he had done a lot of work to take this stuff and put it into quizzes for Canvas. So that's awesome. He created 100 of them, and he created these ones where you can do practice ones as well as actual assessments. Not all of them are perfect because some of them are just text-based things that are kind of cumbersome, but there are a lot of good ones, and it's a great way to start without having to generate a bunch of content. For instance, the note reading and the intervals are pretty good. The key signatures, they just have text, well, I'll show you in a second, but it's a great start if you want to try to have drilling and faster results in your theory class. So what do you do about this? Well, once you find something like this, I found it through Google searches, then you want to take it into your own Canvas module. So after you've imported your last semester's module back into here, this type of thing, you can go to click on Commons here. Commons will have all kinds of stuff made by other people. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to paste. Wrong thing there. Mark, F-E-E-Z-E. And then this pops up. Ultimate Music Theory Quiz Library. So once you've got that, you can go over to whatever Canvas module you have. Or Canvas shell, I can't remember how to call them, I think it's module, whatever. You go into it and click the one you want and say import into course. You can also download it too. I'm going to see if there's anything else by him actually. But once you click on this, it's going to import everything into your own Canvas module. So let's look and see that. Now if I go to my quizzes, and I have them hidden from students and stuff at the moment, but you can, show this. They're going to be unpublished. It takes a little while to load them because there's so many of them, but you can see all these different quizzes here in just a second. And there they are. They show the little rocket ship thing that means quiz. And they have a bunch of things. Notice this too, augmented 6 chord spelling. There's a lot of pretty advanced stuff. You do need to check them out first though, because some of them are a bit cumbersome in the way they're formatted, but let's check them out. Here's an example of Mark's stuff. Looks like it's all he did. Here's an example of the key signatures. Not great, right? Because it says major key, 5 flats, and this type of stuff. But you can go ahead and still use them to get results. If a student can figure out that it's D flat or that it's G or whatever happens to be in here, and just click it in with letter names. A little lowercase b in here. Tab over the next one, hit G, and so on. It actually works, and you can get them to practice those. So it could be better if it was maybe pictures with notation, but works. And auto grades for you and sends it into Canvas. Next up is, check this out, Music Fundamentals Test 1, and it's got 3 parts to this with different aspects of spelling. Some of it's good, some of it's not, but use whatever you want. It gives instructions for the students about how to type things in, but check it out. This section alone is just worth the time, right? Get your students to practice drilling in what this note is, what that note is, and so on. And they can just type it in and then hit tab a couple times to go to the next one. They all can be timed. You can set up how long in time you want them to be allowed to have. So that covers a lot of things for theory. And again, for later classes, it has some stuff in there. Some of it good, some of it not. But there are some ones that show pictures of chords and such too for people to analyze. And the intervals are also good too. Let's look at that real quick. Where is it? Quizzes. I'm going to go down to intervals. Let's say, and they're intervals up and down. And then they have intervals here that don't have double sharps or flats. So let's see. Let's do something like this. It's not going to. Oh, I'm going from their page, not mine. So go intervals up and down. And this one's not published yet, but once I hit preview, it'll show it what it would look like to a student. You can also make these appear one at a time if you want to, as opposed to just a bunch of them laid out. Okay, so this one's not as nice. I think there is it's interval spelling. The one that actually, so it'll give you an interval and you have to spell what the correct note is up or down from it. It has one as well that shows the actual intervals in notation. It's a little bit nicer here. Yeah, okay, these ones, interval ID. And you can load that up. And there. So you see here they have a diminished fifth, and you hit diminished and fifth down here, right? So that's pretty cool. And you go through a certain amount of these in whatever time limit you give them. Here it's had 5 minutes. And again, it'll auto grade and throw it into your grading page here. So pretty cool on that. That's the theory element. The ear training, honestly, things aren't as good, but there's a couple things you can do. Some of you may have already used these things, and I have, and Manny and others, but if you go to exercises, and then you go to whatever you want, really, you can do the theory ones too, but since they don't auto-grade in the same way, I'd recommend probably using the other ones. If you go to ear training and say like interval ear training, for instance, then I can also go over here and I can say challenge mode and put it on a time limit on these things. I can customize them. Make whatever I want for the amount of intervals and types and stuff to show up. Okay. Once I'm done with all that and make a custom exercise, it gives me a code that I can paste for students to load up. And when they're done, then in challenge mode, when they're done, they're going to get something like this. And then they say, okay, fourth, and they identify the note, so on, so on. When they're done with all this, a time runs out, it's going to give them a score and a code. And if they paste it in as text to Canvas as an assignment, it'll load up and show you what their score was. So you can just look at the score and enter it in. You know, it's a few more steps, but it's still cool because you can do some basic ear training on there, and then you can take the results and pass them on in. Those of you who have used a bunch of stuff already on musictheory.net realize that it doesn't really have any rhythm ear training skills. So one thing you can potentially do is go over to teoria.com, and you can do some rhythmic dictation here. It used to be horrible in its user interface. Now it's not as horrible. You know, you have versions of these things that you can set up, and then you hit OK, plays a metronome and plays some beats for you. So you tap it in. Oh, maybe hit that da 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 da. The editing process, if you screw up like that, just click on it and hit the one you want. So it's a little bit weird, but you're able to get people to practice some things this way. What I'm thinking might be the best thing to do for all of us, I'm sorry this is such a long video too, is if we take some of the quizzes that are pre-made here, just use a few, you know, circle of fifths, identifying notes in treble, bass clef, possibly alto clef, that type of thing. Whatever ones you happen to think are decent. Use a couple of these and automatically grade them in Canvas. And then do your own ear training things as normal. Or, I'm just going to time out in this quiz. Or possibly you can use Aurelia and directly have Aurelia take its testing and throw it into Canvas. So I looked this up, and Aurelia now has a learning tool interoperability connection, and so the ones that it uses are these things called Aurelia Task Launch, and essentially you'll make a task in your Canvas, and that'll launch a task from the web version, I believe, or maybe the desktop. I'm not quite sure yet, but it'll launch the Aurelia Cloud. Students will do whatever task it happens to be, and when it finishes, it'll communicate that information back to the Grade Center in Canvas. Unfortunately, that has to be set up with our Canvas distance learning person, the new one I think we just had. So I emailed her. That was Dawn something. But I emailed her about different thing. I emailed her about that, and should make it possible so that we can take at least this cloud interface, if not the desktop one that has various rhythmic dictation and other things. Just make it possible so we can take this and have it auto grade and send it directly into Canvas. So it's a bit of jumping through some hoops, but I think ultimately it could save a ton of time and help students drill in several ways. If you did that route, of course, it'd be you have to pay the $30 for the 2 semesters, but it might get a lot of outside practice that's really necessary and often not done. It might get a lot of that happening with students. Well, if you have any questions about this, let me know. Hope it was helpful, and hope you guys have a good meeting on Friday.